Hey everybody, it's Korie with CVMA, and today we're here to talk about Basic Sequence 1. So Basic Sequence 1 is the first of 4 sequences that are designed to teach you the techniques, the stances, and the blocks and strikes from the beginner curriculum. So Basic Sequence 1 is focused more on the stances. So this sequence consists of a front stance, a horse stance, a cat stance, fighting stance, and it also includes one of your first blocks, which is called your down block. So Basic Sequence 1 is a beginner topic, but it is a topic that will follow you all the way up to your black belt tests and further past. So every test that's done at CVMA, you're required to do this and the rest of the sequences in each test. And the reason is this covers, the 4 sequences cover about 60 to 80% of the curriculum for beginners. So these are really important topics. So we're going to spend a little bit of time on this one. This video is going to be for everybody, so beginner and advanced alike. So beginners, when you're watching this video, just work on the steps, right? Memorizing the steps, knowing which direction you're going, knowing which leg is supposed to be out, and working more at that level until it becomes muscle memory. Once it becomes muscle memory, and for the advanced students out there, we're going to talk a lot about stance transitions. So how do we get from place to place effectively to where we don't put ourselves at risk from a combat perspective. So for advanced students, you want to be working on every small transition that we do, doing it slowly, doing it to where you don't lose your balance, to where you don't feel at risk at all, and making sure that you're identifying an attacker before you move. Right? So making sure that your eyes are going the right direction and that you're not blindly turning into an opponent. So there are different things you're going to be focusing on depending on your skill level. So this video is going to go into a little bit of detail. So just take from it what you need and then come back again later on and take a little bit more. So we're going to start by just walking through the sequence. So we're going to start not talking about transitions, not talking about anything else. We're just going to talk about what this sequence is. So we start in Jabit, we start in a ready position. The first thing you do is step out left leg forward into a front stance with a down block. So you step out, down block. Then from here you're going to step forward into a fighting stance with your right leg forward. You're now going to step forward into a horse stance with your left leg forward. And then you're going to step forward into a cat stance with your right leg forward. Now, from here you're going to turn from a cat stance into a left leg forward, front stance down block. Now you're going to repeat. So we started in front stance down block before. Now we're going to step forward into fighting stance with our right leg forward. Stepping forward into a horse stance with our left leg forward. And stepping forward into a cat stance with our right leg forward. From here we're going to execute that turn from a cat stance into a front stance, left leg forward, down block. And we're going to retreat to ready position, Jabit. And that's sequence 1. Now, let's talk about the different transitions in there, because as you can see there's a lot of transitions, and it's not just front stance to front stance. It's front stance to fighting stance to horse stance to cat stance, a turn from a cat stance to a front stance. So there's a lot of different, very dynamic stance changes in this sequence that, if it's not done properly, it's going to throw you off balance, and it's going to put you in a worse position than you could have been if you were just standing normally. So let's go ahead and talk about these different transitions and how we get from place to place. So let's start from beginning. So we're going to step out into a left leg forward front stance into a down block. So let's just take the stance first. So how do we get to a front stance from here? Well, what we're going to do is we're already sort of centered here, so we don't have to worry about bringing the foot in. The foot's already in position for the middle. So we just need to complete the C-step and move out into the front stance. So from here we're just going to step forward into the front stance. Now, that'd be great, except we have a down block on top of it. So there's additional components that we have to worry about. So we have to worry about getting power into the down block. We have to worry about setup. So there's a little bit of a way this changes because we're throwing a technique with it. So what we're going to do is, it's going to be done in sort of two phases. We're going to first set up. So the setup is, we're going to complete that C-step and set the foot out. But as we do that, the hips are going to stay turned to the side because, again, we're going to set up the down block and we need that hip power. So I'm going to prepare the down block on the left side, right? So bringing the left arm up, right hand across. As I do that, hips are going to turn as the foot goes out to help with the C-step, but also to set the power for the down block. So I'm going to come out to here. Now, as I go into this down block, I'm going to rotate the hips to put the power into it, and I'm going to set the foot down. And I'm going to lock it in on this leg. So this leg is going to lock into position. So as I go down here into the down block. Now, the hips turned, but they didn't roll. They didn't come out to the side of the stance. So when you're turning, you're corkscrewing the heel of the back foot into the ground and driving the hips back to center, but not past center. It's a big key. When you're down blocking, a lot of people want to turn through here like this, so we want to make sure we stay centered in the down block. And this is what we'll talk about in the down block videos a little bit more, is how to throw this with power and efficiency. So go back and review that video to get more detail into that. But again, hands up, protected at the rib, and we're at our down block. So now we need to move into a fighting stance. So we're a little wider than normal gait because we're in a down block. Or excuse me, we're in a front stance, down block. So we need to bring this back foot in a little bit to get back to normal gait. So we're going to bring the back foot in a little bit more than straight on, and we're going to settle that foot out, go to more 50-50, and go into our fighting stance. Hands are going to come up into normal protected position, and we're going to be in that 50-50 fighting stance, ready to move. So from here, we're not necessarily normal gait, but we're closer to normal gait than feet in line, right? So my feet are not in line here. I have a little bit of an open fighting stance here. So I need to get now right on line because I'm going to be stepping into a horse stance. So I have to bring this back foot onto the straight line, right? Onto that straight line. So I can't just step at normal gait. It's not going to put me in the horse stance. So I need to bring this back foot onto the straight line, and as it comes to the straight line, I'm going to transfer that weight, get up on the balls of the feet, ready for that turn into horse stance. I need to make sure I'm out the proper distance, and from here, hands are going to come back as I turn into the horse stance. Now, making sure that my feet are at a little bit of gait, right? So from that perspective, if my feet are in line and I'm ready to go, I'm going to then move into the next step. If I feel like I'm not right here, make your adjustments. That's a hard transition, especially for beginners. So take your time, readjust as you need to. Don't move forward until you're ready. All right, so we're here. We're going to move into the cat stance. So I need to get back from feet on line to a normal gait width. So I'm going to turn the foot. As I turn the foot, I'm going to step, set the feet, bring the hands up. Now, again, ball of the foot, normal gait width here, right? So I don't want to be crossed here, and you're going to have a habit of doing that when you're in a horse stance. Just be careful that this foot does make it back out to normal gait. Now, from here we need to go to a front stance. So let's review. How would we turn into a front stance normally? Well, if we were in a front stance and we wanted to do a technical front stance turn, we would take our back leg straight across, up on the balls of the feet, and we would turn and set the stance. Well, nothing changes here. So from a stance perspective, in order to get to that transition, we're going to put the foot down, transfer the weight, right? Not rock the hips forward, just transfer all the weight, or not all the weight, but transfer the weight smoothly. Drop back foot across, turn, and go into stance. But again, we have that added component of the down block. So all that means is we have to put a transition on it. So this is where we talk about blind turning, right? When you're doing a turn, you don't want to just kind of put your foot down, go here, and turn, because you don't know who's behind you. Or you don't know how far they are away. Do they have a weapon? Do they not have a, you don't know anything about it because you haven't seen it yet. So you have to do a turn with a look. So as I'm setting up, I'm going to look across, I'm going to look over the shoulder, then I'm going to execute my turn. So if I'm throwing a down block, the same thing applies. I'm going to go from here, I'm going to shift the weight, and as I shift the weight, I'm going to prep the down block, and as I prep the down block, I'm going to look over that shoulder. Now, foot's going to come across, I'm going to turn and throw the down block. Hips turn in the middle of the in the middle of the stance, turn in order to give me that power on the down block. So from here we just repeat. So again, we're wider than normal gait width, so we need to bring that foot in slightly for the fighting stance. So we step forward, fighting stance. Now again, we have a little bit of an open fighting stance here, so we're going to step into horse stance, which means we need the back foot to come back onto the straight line, right? So we're going to step that foot onto the straight line, transfer 50-50, lock into position into the horse stance. Now we're going to step into the cat stance, which means we need to go back to that normal gait width. So I'm going to turn the foot. As I turn the foot, I'm bringing that back foot in to position as I pivoted the plant foot, and I'm set in the cat stance. Now again, I'm going to turn to that down block, right? So no blind turning. You got to see where you're going, and you got to transfer that weight first. You can't just move this foot yet because it's got the weight. So I'm going to transfer the weight forward. I'm going to prep the down block as I do. I'm looking over my shoulder. I'm bringing the foot straight across. I'm turning, letting the hips come with it, executing the down block, and I'm in my front stance ready to roll. Now from here, I'm done with the sequence. I'm going to retreat to ready position and bow out. So that's sequence number one. A lot of transition work in there, right? So the big key to this is you're going to take this slow, and I don't want you to rush through it, but what I want you to do is take everything slow, including the turns. You notice when I was doing the turns, I wasn't coming here and then just whipping the body around. I was coming from here, I was setting the foot, and I was slowly making the turn, because you should be able to do those turns slow. Especially advanced students, that's what you're going to be working on. Slow transitions, slow turns, making sure that balance is set and that your technique is ready to roll for use in combat. All right, so we're going to do this again real quick, but we're going to do it from the side so you can see a side angle of this. So this is my new front. Again, we're trying it in a different direction, making sure that we're not geographically attached to the room as a whole. So we're going to start in ready position. We're going to step out, front leg, or excuse me, left leg forward, front stance, down block. So again, out, hips are turning as I settle the foot into front stance. Now, I'm going to step forward again, reestablishing that normal gait width, stepping forward, fighting stance. Now I need to get back on the straight line. So I can't be normal gait distance here. I have to be on the straight line. So I got to bring that back foot onto the straight line, start to transfer some of the weight so I can get to the balls of my feet, pivot balls of the feet into horse stance, making sure the hips are rolled underneath, not poking back. And from here, I need to reestablish that normal gait width. So I'm going to turn the foot into cat stance. I'm going to step forward, set the foot, right? 10% still on this leg, and bring my hands up into the cat stance. Now, I need to execute that turn, right? So I need to drop the weight, bring that weight forward, prep the down block. As I prep the down block, I'm looking over my shoulder, making sure I can see my attacker. I'm bringing the foot across. I'm turning and down blocking. Front stance, left side. I'm going to step forward, again reestablishing that normal gait width. So step forward, fighting stance here. Now, as I step forward, I got to get back on that straight line. So I bring the foot in, cross slightly, up the balls of feet, turn into the horse stance, hips are rolled underneath. I'm going to move forward again, turning, reestablishing normal gait width, stepping forward into that cat stance, 10% going back onto that foot, 90% staying in the back. I'm going to shift that weight forward, prep the down block, turn, look, bring the foot across, turn the body, down block, and end out by retreating back to ready position and bowing out. So that's sequence number one. One thing I didn't talk about yet is your kiap. Where do you put those? So they go on the turns. All right, so I'm not going to do them because I don't want to peek the mic out and hurt everybody's ears. But essentially what it's going to look like is, as I'm going through the sequence, and I'll do it one more time from the side so you can see it maybe from the other side. Again, trying a new direction, making sure that I'm not geographically tied to the room at all. I'm going to go front stance down block, out into the fighting stance, stepping into the horse stance, stepping into the cat stance. As I turn here, I'm going to key up on that down block, right? So that's where the first key up would be. Then I'm going to step forward, fighting stance, step forward into the horse stance, step forward into the cat stance. I'm going to shift the weight, prep the down block, and key up on that down block as well. Then return ready, and bow out. So that's sequence number one. Focusing on stances, right? So transitions are key. Transitions are going to be key in all of the sequences and in your forms, but this one especially, because this one has a lot of different stances and a lot of different hard transitions that if you don't pay attention to them, they're going to put your stance in an awkward position, making the next transition even that much more difficult. So keep your eye on your transitions. Move slow, take this slow. There's no need to rush through these. If you're learning how to put hip power into a down block, this is a great opportunity for you to practice it both forward and in turning. And then if you're having trouble with one of the stances, go back and look at the video on that particular stance, because you're going to learn the detail of that stance, and then you're going to have to put it into practice in these sequences. So if you're having trouble with a transition, or you're having trouble with an individual stance, go back and look at those stances. Look at the fundamental concepts. Make sure that all those things that we've talked about through all this series of videos, that you're doing all of that. Because if you're not, in this sequence, you're going to find that you have a lot of problems with establishing stance, losing balance, and your distances changing throughout the sequence. So go back, review, come back, try it again, go back, review again, come back, try it again. And each time you come back to this video, take something new from it. Don't try to take it all at one time. It's going to be a lot all at once. So take your time, work through this stuff. This is a journey. So work each individual piece, then come back for more. So that was sequence one. I'm Korie with CVMA. See you again next time.